Yo, what's up, and welcome to this episode review for Loki. Well, the show review for Loki, episode one,
What's
brand new
going
premiere.
on?
We are excited, man. How you feeling? How you doing,
I'm
Imani?
hyped. I'm
I'm
hyped.
hyped too, low key. I'm
I'm
trying
really
not to
good.
be like super hyped, but I'm feeling really good about this one.
Did you say Loki?
Low key,
Um,
low
I'm
key.
I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling the way well, not the way I felt when the Mandalorian came out, but I would argue that this is a Mandalorian style and quality show.
Mm,
Like when WandaVision came out, I was expecting Mandalorian tier work, and that's not what we got. We got something that was completely different. I won't say that it was bad, but it just wasn't what I was expecting, and I was assuming Disney Plus was going to have a standard across the board for Marvel and Star Wars shows, and it was clear that Star Wars was in one lane and Marvel was in another. But I felt like Star Wars was the superior channel right now as far as the shows were going. And now I'm feeling like, okay, Marvel is stepping it up and they have a show that's equal.
I definitely would agree with that assessment. I think, well, I guess two things. Kind of the Marvel and Star Wars were in two very different places when these shows premiered. Like Lucasfilm, for the most part, was trying to recuperate some of its brand image because, like, regardless of how you feel, whether or not you like the sequels or not, like it's been very divisive, like with the fan base. And Marvel, on the other hand, has seen nothing but success for the past decade or more. Um, and so like it was clearly a sense of urgency for the Mandalorian show to be successful. Like it was this precedent for that, and it came across on screen with the writing and the storytelling. And then WandaVision, I think, because of that, it suffered the hype train that was created by the Mandalorian, for it to be something that it probably was never intended to be. Um, but I mean, at the end of the day, WandaVision was what it was. I can still appreciate it for what it was. It just definitely wasn't what I was expecting it to be, but I did. There are moments and things that I enjoyed throughout the series, same with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But this show, however, right off the bat, first episode, this feels like we are entering a new phase of Marvel. This feels like the first entry to Phase 4.
Definitely. I'm feeling good about it.
Ducky Momo says, such a good show. Welcome.
Ducky
Thank you for
Momo, what's
joining.
going on?
Hey, before we get too deep into this, in the comment section, let us know on a scale of 1 to 10 where you rank this episode. Do you want to drop your ranking? Do you have a rank? Or do you got some time? Because I got my number
Okay,
ready.
so I don't know if I want to go scale of 1 to 10. I mean, I could easily give it a 7.5. It could, I would argue that it might deserve more, but it's just the first episode, so that's difficult. But I would prefer to rank it out of the Marvel show premieres. This is the best one.
Oh, yeah, I don't even think you can compare the other premieres to this. Is nowhere close to this one. I mean, this is a very, very solid first episode. Like, I mean, yeah, like this is on par. Like this sets expectations very, very high for me for the show. Like one, there are mysteries and there are story elements that are told, but they're self-contained. Like there's a thing that we'll talk about, that it happens in the show that gives us some PTSD from WandaVision and and Falcon and the Winter Soldier to a degree, but it was addressed and clarified within this episode, which was great. Because I feel like personally for me, had they not like resolved that in this episode, I might have had a completely different
Let's
feeling
just
for this
talk
show.
about it.
All right, you want to get into it? Well, first of all, my rank is definitely this is an 8 for me. And like me, 1 to 10, 1 and 2 is like terrible, 3 to 4 below average, 4 to 5 is average, 6 to 7 above average. Then that 8, 9, 10. Well, no, what did I wrong?
No, you're good.
I do that wrong.
9, 10 is
Anyways, whatever. Yeah. 9 to 10. No, 8 to 9 is like excellent, and then like 10 is perfect. But yeah, it's a solid 8 for me.
so instead of giving it a number, I'll say it was excellent.
Okay,
That
I
makes
can
me
rock with
feel
that.
better. Only because it's the first episode, and I don't know if you watched or if anybody watches Dancing with the Stars, but like the first week, like the first people to perform, they always get bad scores no matter how good their performances are, and it's because they haven't seen anyone else and they don't know how to rank it as far as the rest of the performers go. So somebody could come out and have what would be considered like a 7 or 8 performance, and they're gonna get a 5 just because the judges don't know, what to give it at
What
first. So
else? Yeah.
I'm going to give it an excellent because I enjoyed it. I had surprises where I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But I wouldn't say that it was because of the quality of the show. It's just what they gave us. I'm with
I
you,
would
Michelle.
agree with that.
Safe.
Ducky Momo is like he is high on this first episode. 9.999.
I
That's
don't blame
incredible.
him. It's really good.
7.5. I would, like the thing about a premiere, like it does have to hit because like the premiere is so important. Like you've got to get people invested in what this show is or isn't about, and that's why like it has like for me a premiere has to be within that excellent and above because otherwise how are you going to get that return viewership? Um, you got to give people something to look forward to, and I think this episode does all that. It sets up a lot of things. It gets us, with a familiar character that fans know and love, and it doesn't waste time really because we know the fate of Loki, and I'm happy because let's I guess we can segue into the episode now. But from the jump, I'm going back to Endgame real quick. But that whole sequence in Endgame, which they cover in the beginning of the show, where Loki takes the Tesseract and just disappears, I'm like, I remember watching that in theaters, going like, "Yo, that's not supposed to happen. Like, how they can't like let that slide." And then I remember thinking, I'm like, maybe that's what the Loki show is going to be about. Like, maybe the Loki show is whatever is the dealing with the repercussions of that failure. Because I'm like, it happened and it happened so fast, and then they're moving on in the movie. But I'm sitting there like, wait a second, like that's a major plot hole right there. Like they've got to like handle that. So good on them for setting that up in Endgame, which is also attributing to it feeling like yeah, this is really the first entry into Phase 4.
Yeah. Can I also say that I didn't have that expectation for the show until the trailer came out. I thought Loki was going to be about Loki getting the Tesseract and just going on a whole new adventure of just being bad. Because the Loki that took the Tesseract in the end of Endgame is not the Loki
Two
that
different
died.
people.
There,
Yeah.
that's the Loki that still hates Thor and wants to terrorize the world. So that's how I was concerned. That was the same Loki at the beginning of this episode, but after he sees the path that he goes on and he, does some self reflection, by the end of this episode, I feel like we're getting the Loki that we remember. So I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
he's still going to have some flashbacks, but after seeing, he lost his mom and then he sees that his father dies. Then he sees that him and his brother become closer and they're able to respect each other and be around each other. And then he sees that he dies for his brother like
Mm-hmm.
that makes me feel better about which Loki we're going to see.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Like that was such an important thing, and I applaud how they executed that because we didn't need like a long sequence. Like we knew, them explaining how the timeline works, the multiverse, and like the war, the multiverses, and all that, which was all cool. And that going back to that, that reminded me of that sequence in Jurassic Park with the animated
Yes,
game
the
sequence. It
yes.
was like literally beat for beat what that was, and I was like, you know, I was hyped because like my inner childhood was like, oh, Jurassic Park callback, nice. And then beyond that, um, we get into basically that truncated time stream of Loki's future and them showcasing everything um, of what's going to happen to him because they explain in that animated sequence this is all one timeline and the TVA make sure everything happens the way it's supposed to, and anytime there's a variant then they that's when they intervene and make sure everything gets back in order. So I love how they explain all that. It didn't take too long. They didn't like beat you over the head with it. It was in and out quick. We got the recap on Loki's future, which we've all seen, and the way he reacted to it lets us know that like this, yes, this is the same Loki that we are familiar with. Like he still has the same motivations, he has the same um, personality, but he also has the same heart because even though Thor: The Dark World isn't the most well in our favorite film, it is probably what we ranked it like what bottom five.
I think the only one below it was Captain Marvel. I think or Dark World. I can check right now, but I'm pretty sure that was
It was
second.
pretty low. It was pretty low. Basically, it was a bottom. I think it was a bottom five film. Although it was there, like there was some very important stuff with the character of Loki and Frigga. We see the connection that they have and like the love he has for his mother is reiterated here, and we see him experience that in a different way than he did in the film. And for me, it had a better impact watching him experience that the death of his mother, the death of his father, and the relationship to your point earlier. Like all of that for me, um, it had a better impact than what the Dark World was able to execute.
Also, I was wrong. We marked The Dark World as the worst film, and
It's
that's
the bottom. Okay,
yeah.
yeah. I'm like it can't be it can't be too high up there. Like I don't know what's honestly worse than that movie.
We had
There are worse movies, but as far as the MCU films, that one is whew, that was down there.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, like all of that stuff was cool, and I think it's really good for like the normies and the not the MCU sweaties that watch all of this content. Like this episode does a really good job of explaining everything in a way so that you can follow along with the events that are going to happen in this show. So like I mean all that it's just brilliant writing.
I would say that I'm a little bit more than a casual Star Wars fan because of you and then my dad all the time, but uh, I'm not as into it as y'all, so I wouldn't say that I'm like top tier fan, but I know more than the casual fan. But I was telling everybody that like The Mandalorian, I know nothing about anything for that show, and I enjoyed it. Like hands down. I wasn't catching all of the references. Like that episode with the worm was way more epic for you than it was for me, even though I still thought it was a great
But
episode.
it's
I
still a
had
great
no
episode.
idea.
Yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
I was telling everybody, like, y'all gotta watch this. That's how I'm feeling about Loki. Like they give you that little bit where for the most part, people have seen Endgame. They know that scene. They know who the Avengers are, but they might not know specifics about Loki. So it's gonna be dope to see.
Yeah, I mean that's how you execute fan service the right way, the proper way. It's you don't beat people over the head with it. You throw it in there, making sure it fits into the story so that the people who know more about that thing are like super hype, but everyone else who doesn't, who may be experiencing this for the first time, can still enjoy what's going on. Like that's yeah, The Mandalorian does that well. This show does it well. And I hope that this trend continues because this is a good sign for this show. All right, now,
But let's get into it.
yeah. Okay, so now we're going to fast forward a little bit to the where were they in France? TVA team is ambushed in France
Yes.
in like in the 1500s,
Yeah.
and they're investigating the scene. They're going through the thing. Mobius is analyzing what's going down, and then this little girl or little boy, whoever
He was a boy.
this child comes across the screen, and they instantly go to start speaking French, trying to figure out what's going on, get some more intel from the kid, and they ask him, "Do you know who did this?" And the kid points at this mural on the wall, and lo and behold, what do we see in the mural? The devil. And I'm instantly like, "Oh Lord, big
I
eye
literally
roll!
yelled
Like
out
we're
loud.
going
Like,
again."
no,
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 Mephisto.
no. Can I
I was
just
like,
say that before
oh.
I watched the episode, I went on social media this morning and um, Magneto was trending, and I freaked out and I said, "Absolutely not!" And I turned on Loki because of that. And I was like, yo, there's no way. I went into the episode still watching it and I was cool. There was no Magneto. So I was like, what the heck? I go back to Twitter to check to see why Magneto was trending. It was trending because there's a woman who thinks the vaccine caused you to be magnetic. But it's still like, I felt like, yo, you've got to be kidding me. Like, we just went through all of this X-Men crap. I don't want to deal with it. And now this. And then, so during the episode, I was concerned that there might be some sort of Magneto pop up. And then I see the devil. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh
But
man, that was my exact reaction too.
I was like,
Oh
oh,
my god,
thank the
dude,
Lord.
I was so like, man, that like I was riding on such a high note until that part came up, and like I literally just like, oh no, not again, not again. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna let it. I'm gonna let it. Let's see what happens. Like I'm not gonna, you know, engage in that speculation at all. We'll see how the rest of this episode goes. But man, that threw me. That threw me. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um, but
Well, tell them what you peeped because I didn't catch it about
okay,
the devil.
yeah. So in the end, at the end of the day, right? Like it is revealed that the main antagonist is another variant of Loki, and Loki being god of mischief. You know, one of his most infamous, you know, his classic suit from the comic books is him with that helmet with the horns coming out the top, and he always wears these green robes. Now, interesting thing about the mural is that the devil in the mural is also wearing green robes, and he has the horns. So that is actually a reference to just Loki. It's not Mephisto at all, which I thought was clever. Unfortunately for them, I don't know how in the loop they were with the Mephisto stuff from WandaVision and all that hoopla, but man, that could have been bad for a lot of fans because my main thing was I'm glad that they addressed that in this episode and we weren't left in suspense as to who the main antagonist would be moving forward. So that nipped that in the bud, and we don't have to deal with Mephisto, at least not for the foreseeable future, not with this show.
Can I just say I'm not going to speculate because I don't care that much, but it would be funny if they added that like in post because of
Because of it.
our all of our speculation and us going crazy. I wonder if they're like, nah, we're not doing that. But I think when did Loki wrap? I don't know. Let me check.
Well before WandaVision. No, 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 no. It would have wrapped later. The key, well, really, honestly, is when they had reshoots last. Too. That's when is when they wrapped, and then when they had their last set of reshoots, and when did WandaVision wrap, and when it had its last bit of reshoots, because you know all of them are all at some point at the writers' table together discussing what's going on with their shows and how all this stuff is going to fit.
So Loki started filming in January 2020 in Atlanta, but it was halted because of COVID, and they
Okay.
didn't get to
Mm-hmm.
finish filming until December, which means post wasn't finished until we get.
Ooh, that's
So there's a
interesting.
chance they got to see us doing the most, and we're like, nah, we're not gonna let this happen.
Yeah, they may have changed like the reveal of
Yeah.
Loki being, you know, they may have you know moved that up because I might have I could see that being a cliffhanger. But I don't know. The way it was written, it seemed like all that stuff flowed together. However, you know, whatever happened, I'm glad they went in the direction that they went with it. Go ahead, nip it in the bud. Tell us who this main antagonist is. I think it's an interesting, very enticing element for Loki himself to the possibility of him going up against another variant of himself. That in itself is intriguing given the nature of the character. So yeah, man. And you know, something else that I saw online is that I don't know if this was if Marvel has actually confirmed this or if this was a rumor, but we have heard these rumors leading up to the show that there's going to be a female Loki and that the female Loki is going to be the main antagonist. But I saw online that they confirmed that um, the Loki variants in the show will be gender fluid, so we'll see both male and female versions of Loki. Don't know how many variants we'll see, but we will see multiple genders and multiple variants.
I feel like the Lady Loki that we got to see in like some behind the scenes clips, and also we got to see her a little bit on set. my spidey senses are telling me that she's not the big bad Loki that the kid was pointing out. That's the devil. Not to say that the big bad Loki is not female, but I don't think it's that particular Loki that we got to see.
We
Um,
also see her in the trailer too, the official trailer. Like she's sitting in what looks like the same the planet where the Soul Stone was.
yeah,
It looks like that's where she is, and because people who I forgot what people said, or they were speculating that she was some other characters, but
they
it's
were saying that
she's
she was the
clearly dressed like
Roma.
Loki.
Yeah,
She was in.
they were saying that she was Black Widow.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
rumor, but then they were able to confirm her photos on set, like that it wasn't her, it was somebody else.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah. So, man.
Can I
So
just?
you don't think it's female Loki is the main tag? You think that's a
I don't think it's that, like the Lady Loki character. I don't think it's her, just
hmm,
because I don't. I mean, before the show, I didn't realize like that there were going to be multiple variants. I hadn't even had the idea of variants. Like in my mind, there was going to be uh Lady Loki the same way that Spider Man and Spider Woman exist in the same universe. I
yeah.
was thinking it was going to be something like that, not like how there's multiple variants of Loki. So if they were able to keep that quiet, then for all I know, there could be 5 or 6 different Lokis. We just don't know who they are yet.
Yeah, I mean that brings up a lot of interesting aspects, right? Because like one of the things that they hit on early is that there's one universe, right? There's a single universe that the timekeeper gods, have consolidated all of the universes into one single universe. Now, with Thor, I'm not Thor, but Doctor Strange coming up in the multiverse of madness. Like, how does all of this happen? Like, is this show going to showcase the basically the this sacred universe splitting into a multiverse? Is this a part of it? Could this be something that happens?
I'm that's where that's only where my speculation is going to be for this show. Besides my ever strong scroll speculation, which we got to see one today. I don't know if y'all peeked,
I
but
did. I early. I was like, oh,
and
secret
also
invasion,
I
secret
feel like,
invasion.
did you recognize the scroll?
I didn't recognize. No, what?
I feel like
You
it was the
recognize the scroll?
scroll from Spider-Man Far From Home, but I'm not gonna go too deep. I gotta zoom in and stuff later. But what was I saying? I lost my thought. Mike Porter 63, what's going on? Tuning in from Twitch.
Hey, my man Mike Porter. Shout out to Mike
That's what
Porter,
I'm talking
man.
about.
Shout out to the den.
The my only speculation is going to be whether or not the multiverse of madness is still within this sacred timeline or not.
That's
Because
what I'm saying.
our concern when they went back in time and were doing all that nonsense is that it was going to mess things up. But then in this episode, we're finding out, yeah, they went back in time, but they were supposed to. They didn't mess up the timeline. They did exactly what they were supposed to do by going back and even going back as far as to get the Pym particles and the Tesseract directly from the military base in, what was that,
Mm-hmm.
the 50s? Like right on time. So, no, that was like the 40s, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the 40s.
I'm wondering if, maybe the multiverse of madness, as crazy as it is, it's supposed to happen. Just like how Doctor Strange, and now, oh my goodness, this thought just came into my head. Doctor Strange was talking about all the different possible outcomes, and there was only one.
Yes.
Like, that's the
Yeah.
sacred timeline.
It. Oh, I didn't peep
I
that,
just that
yo.
just came to me.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Me.
That's wild. Okay, but how? That's crazy. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. The
that
fact that he saw, but the fact that he saw different. I wonder how that works. They got to explain that in Multiverse of
with
Madness.
all of the knowledge that the Sorcerer Supreme had, there's no way that there's not a book in the Kamutage about the Timekeepers. If
It
he
has to
does
be.
not know, he will be finding out.
But there's
Somebody,
no way. That's
no,
yeah. That's what I'm saying. So
somebody
like,
won't.
there's no way any of the Sorcerer Supremes from Earth's past have never encountered the Timekeepers. Like that's just not. It didn't seem possible.
I would be
Like
surprised if they
someone
work
would have
together.
to have. Yeah, they would have had to like had some sort of interaction with one another at some point.
Like,
Um,
and what's her name? the Sorcerer Supreme in Endgame gave the stone willingly to Banner. No arguments, no nothing. Like
Right.
she had to have some sort of. I always felt like it was crazy. Like yo, even if he said what he said, how do they? How does she know for sure that this is normal? She had to know
She
more than
had
what
to.
we did.
Yeah, she had to have known like
Whoa, look at me on the
if this
spot.
is wrong, like the TVA is going to correct it. So like at the end of the day, just let it happen and it'll all play out. Like that's a very good theory, yo. Dang, man.
That just happened on it. Y'all witnessed it live.
That was yeah, that's
Working.
some heat right there.
Mike Porter, can I just say this was the craziest moment of the entire show for me.
Absolutely.
Old boy opened the drawer all willy nilly. There was a tesseract. There was like 11 stones chilling, and they were
That
using
was
it as paperweights.
that was the feather that or the straw that broke the camel's back for Loki, right? Like his whole ego collapsed right there. You saw it in his face
He just picked up
because
the time stone and was like,
his entire existence, he's just like he's sitting there looking at all those stones, like, bruh, I did how many crazy deeds just to get this tesseract, and y'all have a drawer full of them, like, what is going on? Like that whole moment flips the entire MCU on its head, and I think that's a very good thing because it sets up so much for what the potential of our next threat and our next big bad that the Avengers are going to have to face will be. Because if the TVA has access to, like, I mean, they just have an infinite number of Infinity Stones. Like they're irrelevant to the TVA, which means the next threat that the Avengers face, they're going to be on par with that type of power. You know what I'm saying? Like, or at least come to some sort of equivalency to it. So it's like, man, like definitely this reset the whole MCU for me.
everything is connected. I wish
Like
JBM was here. I'm sure he would have some sort of pun for this moment.
the whole thing, the whole Infinity Saga is just like it just sent it to the past. It's like, yeah, that's over now. Like redundant, done deal.
I
Get
was
it
like,
out your head,
like they went through all of that work to get stones, and all these people died for stones. Vision died, and there was a Mind Stone chilling,
bro.
just chilling.
Can you imagine, like, if the entire Avengers found out about that drawer? Like, oh my goodness,
I'm not okay.
man.
I'm not okay.
It flips everything on
Kanar,
its head.
what's going on?
What's happening?
The Captain's Log. Thank you, as always, for tuning in.
It's connected. Yes, the connections are there. Finally, we get connections to the past, present, and future. TVA also too in the comics has a strong connection to the X-Men, as well as the Eternals. I wonder if some of that, because there's nothing they can do in this show that will spoil any of the upcoming properties. So like they have to be careful with any references or tie-ins to upcoming properties. But you have to wonder: are we going to see some sort of loose connection to the Eternals or to another property? Like, I mean, the whole multiverse thing and the universe thing. Like, you have to imagine at the end of this season, there's some sort of setup for Doctor Strange to some degree, or even Spider-Man.
I am. I'm not going to do what I did with WandaVision, and I'm not going to do it. I said that when Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out. I speculated a little bit, but for the most part, I was really strong. I'm not going to do that with this show, even though I'm so much more excited now because this show is great. I can't do. I need to relax.
I think yeah.
I'm thinking like, yo, do I need to find out what the connection is between the Timekeepers and the Eternals? And because of what I went through with WandaVision, I've kind of slowed down on the amount of research I'm doing. Like I did research before the show, but now that it's out, I don't want to go too much further because then one, the MCU isn't sticking completely to the comics. So,
Mm-hmm.
just reading them all and getting myself hyped for stuff that may not even happen, it's what hurt WandaVision. Like WandaVision was a worse show because I was sitting at home doing research, looking through books and comics all night. If I just sat down and appreciated it for what it was, I would have enjoyed it more in that moment. So I can't. I'm not gonna let myself. But yeah,
I understand. I understand. Well, I think one thing that we can do is just wait until there is an actual reference made or some sort of connection drawn in the show to anything that's upcoming.
yeah.
Then start to like, all right, well, what could this mean? But I'm a little different. Like I'm going to appreciate the show for what it is, regardless. But I think that, I mean, for me, because it now exists, because the TVA exists, it means that it opens up avenues potentially for things to happen in the future. I'm not going to buy into my own hype and my own speculation for what could potentially happen, but I am curious as to how all of these things are going to be brought together. That's for sure.
I'm hyped.
That's for sure. Well, my main thing is like I need to see the X Men sooner rather than later. I'm really hyped for the X Men. I'm hyped for the Fantastic Four, and all of that. So like any type of like reference or anything that I can get for those shows or movies coming up for those properties, I'm gonna be hyped for.
I'm not to say I'm not hyped, but I'm not pressed for the X-Men right now. Only because after doing some reflection, especially since we've been ranking the Marvel films, we had the hardest time arguing which of the X-Men films were worse. Like the top wasn't that big. There were a lot of movies that we as a whole did not like, and the viewers agreed with us as far as what was bad. So it's clear that it's not easy to get them right. Um, so I'm not gonna put too much pressure on Marvel to do it. I would rather them take their time and get it right versus give us another apocalypse. I don't need that.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just to figure out how they fit into phase four, phase five, and like whatever our next end game. I don't know how else to put it, or Infinity War, Secret War. I don't know how big Secret War is huge. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know how big Secret War is going to be. It's going to be pivotal in the future of the MCU, but it's not going to be that. It's more like of a catalyst to the next thing. It'll be like uh, Winter Soldier or Civil War. Like it'll be on that level, but it won't be the next big galactic threat. Like it's gonna
Are you
set it
talking
up
about
as
Secret Invasion?
Secret Invasion. Yeah, yeah. I'm not. What did I say? Secret War.
You said
Yeah,
Secret War. The
Secret
only
Invasion.
the only reason why I want to disagree with you is have you seen Far From Home yet?
No.
Okay. Well, with a combination of Far From Home and Captain Marvel, the MCU has made the scrolls a source of comedy for the most part. Yes, at the beginning of Captain Marvel, they were no joke. They showed how powerful they were and how scary they could be. But for the most part, when I see a scroll now, I feel like a joke is coming. Um, and I wouldn't be surprised if Secret Invasion is more like a compilation of, different scenes throughout the MCU, and we find out that characters that we thought were human are really scrolls. I'm not gonna hold myself to the how. Not to say that the show was not important, but I'm not gonna hold it to be so tough until we see it. Like I'm not gonna let myself speculate that much, especially since knowing how the Marvel has been handling the scrolls so far. Right now, it's not too serious, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
especially since it's a show. And plus, I mean, Loki is doing better, but seeing how WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier performed, I'm not getting too hyped for any show until it's out.
Yeah. Okay. I can. I agree with that. I think we'll see. Well, I'll say let's wait and see what the promotion for Secret Invasion will be once we get into that arena. Once we get into that, because when's that coming out? 20 next year, late or 2023?
I'm checking right now.
That's way it's later in down the timeline. So we're not going to see any promotional material. Like I think a key thing is to see uh, how much they hype that movie up. that would be more, I guess, of a telltale sign of how important it is to, or not important, going to be important, but how big of an event it is within the MCU. Let
Um,
me look at the comments
so
too.
this is saying that the first season will consist of 6 episodes and it'll appear in 2022. But I'm not gonna hold Marvel to any second seasons of anything they're producing right now until they say it.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, because like right now, that was to the earlier point of the montage sequence with Loki. Like we know where this character is. Like we don't need a long drawn out soliloquy about you know everything that would have happened to him had he stayed within the main timeline. The most important thing is to get to the character development and to get us to buy into Loki becoming a hero of sorts in his own right. Let's see. Yeah, that was cool. I was expecting that was going to be a part of the heist. I thought it was going to be important to whatever the story was, but it just happened to be a flashback. But it was still cool. Um, are you familiar with the DB Cooper heist?
I had to do some more research before I after the show. I had heard the name, but I didn't really know. And dang,
Yeah,
like
that
they
was
still don't know
wild.
where that man is. They don't know
Yeah,
what happened. He just got away with that money and dipped.
which is crazy. That's cool though. Like the fact that they incorporated it, and like because you can do stuff like that. That's what kind of like the cool thing about the show. If it continues, which I think they're planning to, from what I understand, season two is in development at some stage. They're they can do kind of like weird, cool stuff like that with this character of Loki.
Also, Marvel has been doing that. I mean, since Captain America, they've they've been including actual historical events.
Historical references, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
that's
The
really cool.
fact the fact that it was a bet though is just I don't know why that was funny to me. It's like I lost the bet to Thor, so I had to go do this.
I also appreciate that they included that because for the most part, in the MCU, they made it seem like Loki didn't even play with Thor as a kid. Like they had no sort of love for each other until
Right.
Ragnarok when they started to speak more. So I appreciate that they showed like they used to at least, laugh around a bit. And then they reinforced it by talking about him and his father in this episode and, bringing up his father loved both of his sons and then those clips. It also, that gave me some insight into how close Loki really was with his brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I mean, because the only real references that we get to it are like to your point is somewhat in the Dark World, Ragnarok's, and what Endgame
They
really.
get
But I
closer
mean, they kind
to
of a lot of it is in Ragnarok though. Like when
Infinity
they
War.
yeah, so it's cool to see because I mean their relationship fluctuates throughout the ages really like they're up and then they're down they have their peaks and their valleys so it's cool to see that that trend continue. Next, what else? What haven't we covered within this in this show?
Um, can I just say that I think Wumi Musaku plays Agent 15,
Yes.
B-15. She was also Ruby in Lovecraft Country. She's great. I love her. Very happy to see her in the show. Also, did we talk about how the agents, the timekeeper people, about like how they operate with time, or did we say talk about that off camera?
We talked about that off camera, but like just speculating. So what we were speculating a bit of like, are they immortal? Like how old are they? Um, and the key is, I guess time. I don't. Time works differently in the TVA. So I guess they're timeless. Like they're not immortal beings. Like they just don't because the time doesn't pass the same way it does in the rest of the universe. They just don't age.
Yeah.
And it seems like they are all created to perform their task by the timekeepers. So That's very interesting. Like it's a lot of people because that TVA, like the glimpse that we saw of the world or the whatever, I guess it's a world. I don't know what it is, but wherever the TVA resides within the universe, it's a very expansive region of space. So I guess there's a lot of them, but it seems like it would be like a task that would require a lot of hands on deck anyway if you're managing and monitoring all of time and space.
It's TV as in Victor A.
Yeah, time variance authority.
Apparently, the TVA is the name of an electricity company that's in the South. And when you type that in, you can't get no information. Let me type in the word wrong. I'm trying to figure out where they are. But it's
Right.
still, I notice a lot of them don't have names. Like when Mosaku's character is, I think, Agent or Officer B-15. The
Yeah.
gentleman at the drawer who had the drawer full of the Infinity Stones. I don't think he had a name. I don't think they eat. He didn't know what fish was. I think they're just beings who work, and
Yeah.
that's it. They do the same thing over and over again, nothing else.
Yeah. Ducky Momo says I wouldn't be surprised if Loki outperforms the Eternals in Shanghai. That wouldn't surprise me either. I would say I think Shanghai or not Shanghai, Shang-Chi is going to outperform the Eternals for sure. We'll see what the fan reception is on those series, but because I think that Loki is going to be, I mean, Loki right now is going to be it's the favorite. It's what everybody's been anticipating and waiting for ever since it was announced. Shang Chi and the Eternals are really fighting an uphill battle. Like they've got to win an audience over, whereas Loki is kind of sort of Loki's Loki. Everybody loves Loki, so yeah, it's positioned itself in a good spot. But I'm still looking. I think Shang Chi is going to catch a lot of people by surprise, and I think the Eternals will have some surprises with in store for us, hopefully, because um, they're kind of important to well, not kind of, they're really important to Marvel, but we'll see how they execute them within the MCU.
Not finding any information on where they operate, but something funny I just found is that the Fantastic Four violate the TVA's laws all the time, and they actually got in trouble with Mobius. Owen Wilson's character's name is Mobius, and Mobius.
Yeah,
Um, they got in a lot of trouble with him, and he like tried to discipline them because they keep breaking the rules, which I think is funny.
yeah. He and Reed Richards bump heads quite often, and then I don't know how the Council of Reed works. I think that's part of the problem because the Council of Reed is a bunch of variant Reed Richards from different multiverses that come together to dictate what should happen within each of the universes or multiverses. Like I can see how that would conflict with the TVA's directive.
That's funny.
Uh,
Oh, that made me think of
Coop Daddy Yoda.
Coop Daddy Yoda. The
Been
council.
multitasking, yep, understandable. Also, Thor comic book fan, yep. So, as a comic book fan of Thor, he's repeatedly stated as his favorite comic book superhero. Um, the Loki stuff, I don't know. I'm curious for the comic book fans and the Thor fans and the Loki fans, like where they sit with this show. I think a lot of people who are fans of Marvel and fans of the MCU in general have seemed to enjoy this show. But I think overall, like I would be curious to see like what the hardcore Thor Loki fans would do. I don't think Marvel has a fan base that's like as like Star Wars fans and Marvel fans are very very different. Like there's a almost
Star Wars fans feel very entitled. There's no
yes,
better way to put it. They
and they
feel like
gatekeep.
wrote it
Like
themselves. Yes,
yeah, they gatekeep a lot. There's a lot of that within the Star Wars fandom. Everyone feels like their era was the best era of Star Wars, whereas comic book fans, Marvel fans, they don't. I don't see a lot of that. Um, I think they have their opinions for sure about characters and certain events and how they happen in the comics versus how they happen in the movies, but it's not like fan base breaking types of disagreements. Like I don't know. It's more. It's definitely more respectful. Like people within the Star Wars fandom tend to gatekeep a lot, which has been a problem with the franchise for forever. Like probably I would say definitely since the prequels came out. That's probably when it became noticeable. But yeah, Marvel fans have been pretty cool.
I think
This
it's
fan base.
I think it's because there's just a lot more work, a lot more content under Marvel, whether it's comics, shows, movies, and just the comics itself. Like you can't really argue much about one character not being able to do something because for the most part there's like 50 different versions of each character, so they're
That's what I'm
taking
saying.
something from somewhere, while Star Wars is just the movies and the games, and there's a few books now, but there's nowhere near as much content.
Well, we don't have variants of characters and stories.
Right.
Like we don't have different runs of. There's no alternate run for the original trilogy. Like there's no alternate. Like the stories are what they are, and there's no branch timeline. There's no variation of invariants of different characters. Like it's one contained story that spans multiple eras, and like that's so like when things don't go according to how they've always gone, yeah, there's a big problem. Whereas I think comic book fans, they're used to like Marvel and DC deciding, okay, we're not going to write these characters like this anymore. We're going to do this now. Uh, we're gonna go a little darker. We're gonna, you know, they change how they write the characters and the events within their uh, fandom or in their universes quite frequently.
I mean, if you just think about it, like Marvel started during Jim Crow. So imagine like all of the growth that it's been through and everything. Imagine like if it stayed exactly the same, like no
Mm-hmm.
change, no nothing, it would be what it is today. Um, Although I don't know what Star Wars is going to do about that, but the fans are definitely nuts.
See what else.
Ducky Momo says the Kree have been way more of a threat in several movies, and the Skrulls have been cool. I wouldn't be surprised if the MCU continues with that with Secret Wars too. He was talking about my comment about how Secret War Invasion may not be as the Skrulls may not be as tough as you think. And Ducky Momo created or brainwashed captives from the multiverse wars, tricked into working for the TVA. Conspiracies everywhere. He's
He's
referring
talking about
to
the TVA
the
agents.
yeah the all the employees who just exist.
The employees. Yeah, I wonder will we see the timekeepers in some form or fashion. Yeah, they're
I
everywhere.
just just because I realized today that like there has to be someone outside of the TVA who knows they exist, especially like Doctor Strange has got to know somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna see them again, and they got some. Oh, well, that's a name. I would hope we get to see them again. As far
Who
as I can
the
tell.
Owen Wilson?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He's gonna be around. I
yeah.
don't I don't think the TV is going anywhere. As long as he wants to play the character, I'm pretty sure they'll keep the character around. Same with Tom Hiddleston and Loki. As long as he wants to play the character, they'll keep him in.
Also, shout out to Anthony Mackie. Someone asked him like how long he wants to play Captain America. He says, "Yo, I'm gonna be here 6, 8 more years."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
shout out to
yeah.
Black people in job security. That man got his benefits. He ain't going nowhere.
He's like, yeah, I'm good. I'll lock in long term. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm with it. I'm with it. Like, cause I mean, I liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier definitely for what it was. I liked what it set up, and it definitely allowed me to buy into him as Captain America. So I'm definitely looking forward to see what they do with that character moving forward. Um, because that's I mean, there's so much potential in what they could do with the MCU going forward.
I'm loving the new day. I don't feel bad that they're releasing it on Wednesdays. Like I feel I'm just yay, I get content earlier. So I'm hyped about that. And I'm gonna be sad when this ends. Actually, I didn't know it was 6 episodes until today. I thought we were gonna get it.
Yeah, it's only
I'm
six
bummed,
episodes.
especially
So the
as seeing how
last,
good this was.
yeah, the last episode will be on July 14th. But I mean, hey, that just means there won't be a lot of filler. It can't be. We should have some good, a solid 6 episodes from this show. If there are any dips or drop offs, it won't be. It will be within the episode, and I'm pretty sure it'll set up a lot of things for what's to come, man. But I'm definitely looking forward to this. Can't wait to come back next week to talk about episode 2,
I'm ready.
because man, this was a very solid start.
I am
Can
very hyped.
can only go up or down, but they definitely got started on the right foot. All right.
Before we go to see what show is next, but I can't find my list. Oh, there it goes. Um, the next show that's going to drop, the next Marvel show will be What If, and
That's in
I've
when's it?
heard good news about it, like different versions and stuff. That's going to be lit. What If?
Yeah, and what's Black Widow is still slated for, is that later this month or is that in July?
That's
I always forget.
July. There's no date for What If, but I know that they're working on it heavy, so that's next. Black Widow, July 9th. So we'll get Black Widow before the week before the season finale of Loki.
Nice. Definitely check that out because that's coming out in theaters. That'll probably be my first return to the theaters because I want to see that on the big screen. Since they've been pushing it out for us to experience it on the big screen, I may as well go and watch it on the big screen.
Gotcha. Just a bit of, well, you know what? I'll save it for the next cookout. Just people wilding in these movie theaters, so bring wipes. But I'll talk about it on the cookout. Don't need to get into
Oh
that yet.
Lord. Alrighty. Anyway, well yeah. um Upcoming this week, Friday, got our episode, was it 7 review for Bad Batch coming out, or whatever episode is next. That'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on this channel. And then Saturday, of course, we have the cookout. Oh, and before we actually do that, got to shout out Mark and Ebony, Maggie Boomers,
Yes,
and was Kenya Star
yes.
in the Discord. They hosted a our first community stage last night in the Discord, which was amazing. Definitely got more stuff from them coming up within the community. We'll probably also have more stage events scheduled, so definitely be on the lookout for that. If you haven't joined our Discord, that's the only way you'll be able to hear our stages. So you definitely want to join our Discord so you can be a part of that conversation and all the other conversations that we have going on in the Discord throughout the week. Dropping a link right now, but I'm hyped. How'd you feel about the stages and all that?
That was lit. I enjoyed the conversation. We talked about A Quiet Place 2 and The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It, which is out now on HBO Max. It'll be up there for a few more weeks. And A Quiet Place 2 was only in theaters. Both movies I thought were great. If you've already seen The Conjuring, watch it. I'm not going to say anything, but I would like to talk about it some more if we can on the cookout.
Excellent.
That's
So
all I got.
cookout Saturday 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then Star Wars Sunday at its usual time. Well, now it's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm moving it from 7 to 8 p.m. on Sundays, so check that out. I don't have a topic yet for Star Wars Sunday, way too early in the week, but my man Krim will be back joining me for that, if schedules permit, but that right now is the plan. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Imani, you got any closing remarks?
Ma'am, thank you again for joining us. Please give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch at Certified Gumbo. Of course, please join us on Discord. We're always talking about these things all the time. Coop just dropped the link. What else? If you loved our show today and you want to support us, please buy us some coffee. The link is in the description bar below. And as always, please subscribe to our channel and like this video.
Oh, wait, let me hold on 1 second. Let me post that. I didn't post that to all. So there. Now Twitch has it as well. There's the link. If you're watching on Twitch, you can join our Discord from that link. And without further ado, as I always say, Peace, love, blessings, and may the force be with you always.